I think we start the recording now. Okay, so hey Lila, I'm really glad that you joined us for the gut biome discussion, and this is our first discussion for our gut biome page. So I welcome you here, and hopefully we are going to get you some insight of the microbiome from you and what research you are doing. So first of all, I will let you introduce yourself so that you can tell us about your background, what motivates you to come to join the microbiome field, and how the nutrition is related with the microbiome. So what microbiome basically is.
Yeah, of course. So, hi everyone, I'm Laila. So, I am a registered dietitian. My background is in clinical nutrition. So, I'm not a big science person. I've kind of forced myself to be one now that I've pursued my PhD. So, typically, dietitians work in hospital settings, giving medical nutrition therapy to patients. But I really was interested more in the research side of things. So, I decided to come back to school to get my PhD. And so the lab that I'm in is actually run by another PhD dietitian. And we look at how diet impacts the gut microbiome. And so I think a main understanding of the microbiome is a lot of people interchangeably use the term microbiota and microbiome. But the difference between the two is that the microbiota is a collection of the organisms in an environment. So in our lab, it's the gastrointestinal tract or the gut microbiota. And the microbiome includes the collection of the microbes' genes as well. So our lab looks at both of those. And my project goes a little bit further and also looks at the metagenome, which includes all of the genetic material in a sample. So not only the microbes, but we're looking at fecal samples. So there'll be human DNA in there as well. And then I also look at the microbial metabolome. So that's the metabolites that those microbes are producing and or the byproducts that occur when they are going through different reactions. And so the diet is a really cool thing to study in terms of microbiome research because we know that different factors influence our gut microbiota. And so things like our genetics, our host physiology, so like our age, disease state, stress, and a lot of that we can't control. But our environmental factors also impact our gut microbiome. So, like where we live, if you smoke, if you take medications. And diet is one of those environmental factors that we can modify to change our gut microbiome. And a big way that we do this is through foods that have fiber because humans aren't able to digest fiber with the tools we have available in our bodies. But the bacteria in our guts are able to do that because they have different tools that allow them to use that fiber as energy. And so then that creates those metabolites or byproducts, and that can have either beneficial or harmful effects depending on what we're eating, what type of microbes are present. And so diet's a really cool way that we can modify what we have in our gut.
Wow, really nice. I totally agree with you because diet is having really high impact on the microbial whole microbial consortium actually. So what type of diet actually you are studying on? Like you are using the high fiber diet, you have some other components of the diet which specifically you are interested in.
Yeah, so we look at mostly foods that contain fiber. We also have started to look at some foods that contain healthy fats, so things like nuts, almonds, walnuts, as well as avocados. And for me, my research is basically a convenient sample. So I'm combining things that we've already done research on. So I'm combining studies that were done on almonds, walnuts, broccoli, avocado, and whole grains. So all of these foods have some type of fiber, and this is just the groundwork for the field we're trying to break into of personal nutrition. So you and I both know that we eat more than those few handful of foods, but we're trying to study the impact of these single foods. And then once we can figure that out and understand that better, we can move to a broader picture of overall dietary patterns and hopefully eventually different disease states as well.
Yeah, really nice. And I think it's a really complex interaction between the diet and the microbes, right? So what we eat and how they ferment it, and then they produce the short chain fatty acids. It's how these short chain fatty acids are metabolites, which we don't know. Maybe there are some other metabolites we just know about the few short chain fatty acids and other things. So they are really highly influencing our health in a broad way. So I saw your paper which you recently published in a really nice journal, and you showed that you were using a mathematical model to predict the interaction of the diet with the microbiome, with the bacteria in our gut. So how do you this? What kind of approaches you are using to identify the bacteria which are directly linked with the diet? Because it's really complex process.
Yeah. So it is very complex. As I said, I do have a background in nutrition, and it's a lot of mathematical modeling that I don't have training on. And so I've learned a little bit of it while I've been here, but we really benefit from collaborating with other researchers in our field. So while Dr. Holscher and I can come forward with our nutrition expertise, our microbiology background, and inform what we want to look at, we collaborate with statisticians and computer scientists on campus who don't have that nutrition background or really know the data that's coming into those models, but they're able to understand the types of variables we have and then inform what types of models we can be running with that. So for this paper, we used a random forest model. And so basically what we're trying to do is when we get those big data sets back from microbiome data, as you can imagine, there's trillions of microbes within our bodies, on our bodies. And so to look at all of those in any statistical model, just it's going to be noisy. It's not going to be helpful. And so these types of models that we use, like random forest, helps us to reduce that data set down to a manageable size. And so, for example, in this paper, we were able to pull out 10 to 15 microbes out of those thousands that were the most predictive of what food people were eating, of the ones that we knew from the study. And so, with those models and making that smaller data set, we were able to predict 85% with 85% accuracy if they were eating almonds, avocado, whole grains, or walnuts.
Wow, really nice. So there are food components which you're using. I mean, food kind of foods you are using for the this study. So which kind of food you feel like that's really good for the human health from among the one you were using?
Yeah. So I think it's hard to say right now, especially I know one of our papers, our avocado paper, has gotten a lot of traction in the media, which is great and exciting, but I think it can also be misleading for people that can't read into it more because I think a lot of the headlines are like an avocado a day is going to do all this for you. And we know that one specific food isn't going to be some type of miracle that's going to fix our health. But by adding these things, doing these small changes, overall they can combine together to fix our health or benefit our health. And so I think all of these foods so far, we've been able to see differences based on different microbes. But at this point in time, I can't necessarily say, based on the microbes that we're seeing, if they're beneficial or harmful. But as a dietitian, I can tell you that as long as your diet allows your dietary restrictions, your health, eating these healthy fats like nuts and avocado, as well as the fiber that are in these grains, is going to be beneficial for your health because that fiber has been shown to be not only helpful for things like preventing heart disease, but also just overall feeling full, weight maintenance, and things like that.
Yeah, really nice. So also the one thing I was really interested to understand about the fecal microbiota. So how predictive it is, because you have more bacteria in the gut and you don't know the how much bacteria are coming in your poop samples, in somebody's poop samples, and you are predicting something which is died with the bacteria present in the poop sample. So how predictive it is? I mean, it's in a general way.
Yeah. So that's actually a really great point. That's the big limitation, I would say, of gut microbiome research, is that we are taking these fecal samples, and so they aren't directly related to, let's say, the microbes that are in your small intestine, your large intestine, because it's a different environment right there. But the only way that we could get samples from those environments would be very invasive. I don't think anyone would be willing to give us a biopsy of their intestines. There
Agree.
are actually a lot of cool techniques coming that I've seen. I think expenses are going to be the big limitation, but there's a thing called a smart pill you swallow it, it can detect the pH because your pH will change throughout your GI tract, and it'll open, take a sample, close, and then when it moves on to the next part, let's say your small intestine from your stomach, the pH rises. So it'll open again, take a sample, and then that'll come out in your fecal matter, and we can measure things from there. So that's a really cool technology that's up and coming, but I imagine it being very expensive to have those things involved. So right now, the fecal samples are the best way for us to get an idea of what's going on with the gut microbiome. But it's definitely important to remember that it's just a snapshot of our entire GI tract and what's going on in there.
Yeah, true. Because I'm also working with the fecal microbiota transplant technique. So my project is basically on that. So I wonder sometimes how much bacteria we are transplanting back to the to the mouse. So these things are a bit kind of sometimes I'm skeptical about the numbers and about the phyla which are going back to the after the transplant. So it's really nice study. I really like it. And so people say that yeah. So how you are going to implement this study, the result of this study in the journal Life in human health and these things.
Yeah. So, like I said, these are just single foods, and a study like this, um, we can't make big conclusions from to say, oh, you need to eat almonds because it's going to change your microbiome. And so, this is just a stepping stone for our goal of going towards personalized nutrition recommendations. So, personalized nutrition is a big thing in our field that's on the rise that people are interested in. And the main way that we measure what people are eating in clinical trials is through self-reported measures. So we'll give them diet records or have them do 24-hour diet recalls. But as you know, we're not perfect, so
Yeah.
we don't always remember everything we eat. And they've been shown to underestimate what people are eating because people will forget to report certain things. And so a goal of our research is to complement those self-reported measures with an objective measure using the fecal microbiome. So if we're able to predict what people are eating based on measuring their fecal microbiota, that can complement those measures and make sure we're getting accurate data. And then beyond that, down the line, what we really want to do is in the same way that you can go to the doctor, get your cholesterol measures leveled at your annual checkup, we want our research to be the building blocks to be able to say, let's start measuring people's microbiome when they come in for their annual checkups. And then based on this research, we can say something like, oh, your bad cholesterol is really high, but based on what we know, if you eat almonds, you can increase this specific microbe in your gut, and then that will impact your bad cholesterol and bring it down. So let's try adding almonds to your diet, and then next checkup, we'll check your microbes again and see if that helped. So this paper is just really like the beginning of that. And I really don't think that I will be in this lab by the time we're at that point, but that is the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, it's just a general question. I also have this question in my mind when I'm free or when I'm not doing anything. I feel like how long is going to take to have a personalized medicine, kinds of personalized microbiome therapies. To I don't know, maybe you. I just want to know your opinion. I mean, we were working in the same field, so maybe we had different opinion. But yeah,
Yeah.
good to yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to hear yours too, because I think it's going to be probably decades from now to get it at least really fine tuned. I think we're starting to make some great strides in that area and getting there, but just thinking about all of the different microbes we have, and even now we don't even have a definition of like what a healthy microbiome is. And again, I think the problem is that everyone wants just one answer to that, and I think we need to realize that it's not going to be one specific microbiome for every single person because we're all so different. And so maybe defining like a core set of microbes that could be part of a healthy microbiome. But I think until we're able to define a healthy versus unhealthy microbiome for people that we're not going to be able to get to that point. Um, but we have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for me as well, I think like it's going to take maybe decades to understand actually what bacteria is really important for our health, and the bacteria which we can put back in the humans to get better results or something like that. Yeah, and also with the same thing, I think with the diet as well, because we don't know. We know that high fiber diet has a good impact on our microbiome, but we don't know how much high fiber diet we have to give. How much we suppose we know 20 gram 25 gram is good intake for per day for human being for microbiome, but still we need to improve so many things in that area as well with the diet and with the microbiome interaction. So let's go with out of science for some time, and then we discuss about our lab life. What actually I sometimes feel like we have so many people in our field feel like we have so many problems in our research. So what problems you feel specifically in the microbiome field, which we usually face while analyzing our data, doing our research in the microbiome, in the related with the microbiome? Yeah.
Yeah, so as I alluded to earlier, I think one of the cool things about the research is that we get so much data back, but that can also be a problem if you don't know how to sort through that and pull out what's important from there. And I think because this field is such a big field that it just blew up so quickly. Like everyone just wanted to get into the microbiome field, and because of that, we don't really have standards for doing this research. So we might collect fecal samples a certain way that other people have done, but there's not one way that we're all doing that. And then that makes it even harder for us to advance the field because we can't compare that across different methods. And so I think getting those standards in place for how we measure the microbiome, how we're not only how we measure it, but how we're getting those samples, how we're storing them. And a lot of that comes down to cost too. Like we have two negative 80-degree freezers here, but not everyone has the resources to be able to have something like that in their lab. And so they're going to store their samples at room temperature, but then that's going to completely change the different methods. And so I think getting these standards in place, um, just all the way from the start of collecting the samples through how we analyze them, is going to help make those things more standardized and allow us to be able to compare things across different research studies and make these big strides that we're trying to make.
Yeah, true. I also agree with you because I feel the same. Sometimes you use anaerobic chamber because we have most of the bacteria in our gut, they are anaerobes, like more than 90, I would say more than 95 or 99%. And if we don't have the anaerobic chamber in the lab, we cannot work with this type of bacteria. So that's a really good point. Also, we have to be, as you said, we have to standardize the protocols that each one of us, most of the laboratories, they are following the similar protocols. But as we know that we are this field is growing, so probably after some time we get the standard protocol and these things to get the good results and the reliable results and reliable things. So, and what about your culture in your university, particular in your department, and how many microbiome labs you have? How many people are working on microbiome?
Yeah, so our department is very unique. It's so I'm in the Division of Nutritional Sciences here, but the thing that's unique about it, and it's hard for people to grasp because it's weird, is that no faculty can have their home department be DNS or the Division of Nutritional Sciences. So you have to have a home department in food science and human nutrition, animal sciences, microbiology, genomic biology, and then you can have like an additional appointment in DNS. And because of that, our division is so interdisciplinary because we have animal scientists, we have microbiologists, dietitians, um, and so there's a lot of different work going on in our department. For example, we have someone who's in the animal science department who also does microbiome research, but they do microbiome research in dogs and cats to look at companion animals and how we can best be feeding them. We also have other labs, like we have Dr. Sharon Donovan in our division, and so she's a big name in the nutrition microbiome field. And she did a lot of piglet work. and infant work, and now she's moving more into the adult human trials. And so it's really cool to have like all these different people coming
Yeah.
together and doing all these different works. So I think we're one of the big human microbiome labs in the area, but there's just so much research coming out of this division.
Yeah, really nice. I mean, if you have the collaborative environment, then it's good to collaborate to get some more insight in these things. If somebody is expert in the other field, other things like bioinformatics, that usually I face the same issue. Like if I am a vet biologist, so I want to transform myself in, want to learn some bioinformatics, then I have to give more time. And if somebody is there to teach you, then you in the department you can get the help easily, and you can go ahead with your analysis. Where you stuck, you can proceed like nicely, and with you get the good guidance. Also, I wanted to congratulate you for your award. I saw recently that you got a really good award from the nutrition impact award, right? If
Yeah,
I'm
yes.
correct. So how was it, and how the whole journey is about this award, and how you
Yeah,
got it?
thank you, by the way. So a lot of that award, so our division gives out awards every year to students, and a lot of them are research based, based on, there's a big one called our Baker Award, where it's the person that's done the most research impact, so like through publications, how innovative their dissertation research is. And the other awards are typically for traveling to conferences and getting your research out there. So this Nutrition Impact Award is unique in that it's more for who's had the greatest extracurricular impact, so outside of research. And that's something I've really strived to be involved in throughout the entire time I've been in school. And sometimes that's hard because, as you know, our research is such a big part of our lives. And so sometimes I feel like I don't have time for these things, but they're important to me, especially as a dietitian. I feel like dietitians are often demonized as like the food police, like telling you what to eat. And there's a lot of different viewpoints in our field. And so I think it's important to be involved in those different organizations, getting our research out there, explaining those things. And I personally try to work with people to make sure that they're following a lifestyle that works for them. And that's not going to be a one size fits all. And so I think it's really important to stay involved in these extracurricular things, whether that's being on a leadership team for an organization or just getting involved in an outreach opportunity, so that we can communicate our research to different populations, and make sure that people understand what we do as scientists, because science is such a scary thing if you're not in that world. And so it's our responsibility to go out there and explain to people what we're doing so that they can understand it. And so I think that's how I got that award, because I've made it a priority, to not just be in the lab all the time, but also get out there and talk with other people in my field and outreach with other the general public to make sure that we're communicating those things.
Yeah, really nice. So there are two or three more questions which is really general I wanted to ask you to, because there are so many students doing MSc and coming out after the MSc, they want to join the company and they are thinking about their career. They want to, some of them want to go for higher studies. So if someone of us or someone who is coming after the MSc, a master's degree, and want to join the graduate program, so and want to join in, especially in the microbiome, so what will you suggest to these people, and how they should motivate themselves, and what should they do, what applications they should apply, I mean, for the scholarships and these things, especially in the USA?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, really make sure that a PhD is what you want. I think some people pursue a PhD because they think they have to or they're supposed to. And as you know, it's very tough. Um, you have to really want it to be able to get through it. Um, and so making sure that thinking about your career goals and what you want to do, and if you don't need a PhD for that, then don't waste your time and your energy doing that. But for example, with me, I told you I didn't want to do clinical nutrition and I really wanted to get into research. And so I talked to a lot of my mentors who were like, well, you really need a PhD for what you want to do. And so thankfully, Dr. Holscher, I had done some undergraduate research with her. And so I reached out to her, and that's kind of how I got into this lab. And so I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to network and make connections. And so even if that's something you haven't done, like you've got your master's and you're like, well, I haven't been networking, just start reaching out to people. Like you and I just met through Instagram, and
Yeah,
now we're having a conversation. I think it's really, everyone wants to help one another. I really like using LinkedIn to start reaching out to people if I've never met them, and seeing if you have a mutual connection. Then you can reach out to that person and say, hey, could you connect me with this person? I'm really interested in their work. Um, so I think really working on those connections and networking skills, but also in terms of applying, I think for me, I didn't have any microbiology background when I came here from a nutrition field. I had a science background, but thinking about those translatable skills that you can highlight. We're all smart. We all have these different skills. And even from here, let's say I get my PhD, I might not necessarily work in the microbiome field, but employers can recognize the different skills that we've developed by being in these programs that can transfer into different fields as well. So as long as you show that you're willing to learn, you're capable of working hard, which all of us are, um, you can be in this field. I think you
yeah.
could be in any field you apply to.
Yeah, true. I agree with all of the points you said. And also there are big, okay, you entered in the PhD now. Suppose you qualified your exams, you got a scholarship, now you are in the PhD program. And because it's long journey, you had to be there for 4 and 5 years. Then you had to tackle the problems, solve them, and give time, give your efforts to solve the problems, which are really sometimes really complicated because you want to find something new in your PhD. So your mental health is really important for that, right? And this is a big issue in the science. Like many of us are facing while the PhD, especially because you have so much force to, I mean, so much things to do in 4 years, 5 years, write a good thesis, publish the papers, and so many other things as well. So how do you think how we can keep our mental strength like good in this type of this whole time period?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I am a huge mental health advocate. I really wish I would have focused on my mental health earlier than I did. So I actually started going to therapy the month I started my PhD. And a lot of universities are great that they have resources that you can go to therapy through your university. And so that's what I started doing. And actually, I wasn't surprised that I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and put on medication for that. And so that changed my life. I was like, why did I not do this sooner? And I think there's just so much stigma around that. Like, we force ourselves to feel like we need to be so perfect and we can't have struggles. And I think once you open up about that, you see that everyone else is also going through the same thing too. And it really helps other people too if you're open about that. Um, so actually, through here at the university, I had some other peers that really um, realized the importance of mental health and wellness as well. And so we started a group on campus called Grads Unwind. The Unwind stands for
So
Understanding
that's the
Wellness and
sorry.
Discussions. Yeah.
That's the group you people started by for PhD students.
Yeah. So it's for graduate
I
students. So
appreciate that.
yeah, so it's for masters and PhD. I mean, anyone can come if they're interested. And so we started it on campus, but we have an Instagram. I can share it with you if you want to share it with others. But I want it to expand beyond our university. I want everyone that can come and offer perspective. So we usually have monthly talks where we'll typically have someone from our university come talk about a specific topic related to mental
Mhm.
health and provide us with tools to work on that. And so it's small right now, but I really hope it keeps going even when I'm done here, because it's such an important topic to talk about and to find people that you can share your struggles with and relate to, because it's really hard to feel like you can't talk about those things.
Yeah, true. And so moving on, one really general question that we use nowadays, we use Instagram, we use Facebook, we use LinkedIn, we use ResearchGate. There are so many social sites which we use to promote our science because I feel like people are having a mindset, and the mindset is that science and scientists are like they are kind of lab bug. They are not having a kind of knowledge about the outside, and they are not like so outspoken. they are really conserved society. They are in really conserved kind of society. So I wanted to ask you, what do you feel like as a young researcher, as a PhD student, what do you feel how important these portals are to communicate your science, to tell the world that what you are doing, how you are doing, what how what struggles we are facing day by day, how we solve them, how strong we are as a science community. So what do you feel about these things and
Yeah,
how
I
important they are?
Yeah, so I think they're really important. I mean, not everyone, but almost everyone has at least one of these social media platforms that they're on. And so it's a great way to get your not only your work out there, but again, like talking about the struggles you're going through. Um, and I've found a great community just over the past couple months through doing like a PhD challenge on Instagram of other students that have the same feelings and thoughts as me and are doing such cool research that I would have never even known was going on if I didn't participate in this challenge and find all these people. And so I think it's a great way to find others that are not only doing research in your field, but other fields that you would have never been exposed to. But with that, I want to add the stipulation of the mental health side of it because I think we can also get so set in like, oh, well, I need to get all of these followers and like how many likes did I get on this post. And so reminding ourselves that that's not what's important. Like if you even connect with one person on there that you can relate to, um, that's an achievement right there. And so really not getting wrapped up in the metrics of it and thinking about how many people watched my video today. Like
That's
I think it's really important to make sure that it's not hurting your mental health but helping your mental health when you're involved in all of those technological advances.
That's true. I agree with that because sometimes we get the pressure that we see there are somebody who is doing the same page and having the thousand of followers, and then we have like hundred of followers, and then you get kind of pressure that why, how to get, and you start spending more time there, and then you affect your research as well, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's true. So, if you have anything to suggest us as a for the diet or something, you are most welcome. You can tell us something like which what like I'm also working on the microbiome field, but I'm not as experienced as you in the diet in the field of the diet. So you did your masters and everything in the nutrition science. So do you like to suggest something diet which is really important for our gut health and also our for our mental and our overall health?
Yes. So I think um, at least here in the United States, and I know worldwide, but especially here, we really struggle to get enough fiber. It's really hard for us to get enough fiber because we're not eating enough fruits, vegetables, whole grains. And so if you can focus on one thing, I really think a lot of people get overwhelmed thinking about nutrition because they're like, well, I have to get rid of this. I have to stop eating this. Even I'm still human too as a dietitian, and I struggle a lot of the time to get out of that mindset. So each week I'll try to be like, this week I'm going to eat 5 vegetables a day, which isn't something I would do every single day because again I'm human and I like my desserts and treats too. But so I think just focusing on small things, maybe setting one nutrition goal for you that week, and if it's about your gut microbiome, try adding some high fiber foods. Try new foods that you haven't tried, and that's not only going to help your microbiome but your overall health as well. And making sure that it's something that works for you. If you try to follow something that you don't like, for example, I know the keto diet is a big thing. But if you're not going to stick with that and you're miserable on it, then it's not the diet for you.
That's true. I agree. Keto diet, there are really nice papers which are coming on the keto diet as well. So it's a kind of debatable topic that how it affects the microbiome,
Yep,
right?
definitely.
Yeah, Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean diet is a good diet, but still the keto diet. Yeah, I agree with you. So it was really nice to talk to you. We had really nice discussion about the mental health, about the microbiome, about the diet, and also many other topics, right? So I think now we are nearly 30 minutes, maybe more a bit. But I think it was yeah, well, it was really nice discussion with you. We will probably we will do one more maybe later stage to understand more about the diet and the interaction of the microbiota. It would be really nice to discuss. And also till the time you will be finishing your PhD maybe soon. So
Yeah,
in 1 year maybe, so you get
yeah, I'll
more.
be a doctor and you can call me Dr. Shin.
That's true. I will be happy to call you doctor. Yeah, that's nice. No feeling that you, after 4 years after struggle, you finish your PhD, you defend your thesis. Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me here today, and it was really nice
No, thank you for
time.
having me.
Thank you so much.